How would a clinician identify someone who is at risk for having a post-polio condition? Shouldn't it be easy for them? There are many barriers to identifying someone who has been exposed to polio and who may be experiencing post-polio conditions. Clinicians, people working in medicine and allied health, are educated to screen for many health conditions. But there are so many health conditions that not every clinician can identify each one. Only clinicians who are aware of and trained or experienced in working with those with post-polio conditions are likely to know how to identify someone affected by polio. Post-polio conditions are not rare, but they are also not well known about by clinicians, who see many more people with the very common conditions like diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, and asthma. Also keep in mind that there is no typical physical presentation and no single lab or diagnostic test to confirm post-polio conditions. Each individual's symptoms and their effects are unique. If that's the case, where should a clinician start? Let's start with those people who know they had polio. Clinicians would ask a person the following question. Did you or anyone in your family or any of your childhood friends have polio, or were you school-aged when a polio epidemic occurred in your area? If their answer is yes, then we likely have a true positive identification. The person was probably exposed to the polio virus. Now, some people who say yes will know of no other details and will have no recall of that polio experience. These people should be asked about their health and if they have noticed any of the 6 post-polio symptoms emerging and of any changes in their body's usual ability to function. Some other people who say yes will know quite a bit about their polio experience and share those details with clinicians. They too should be asked about any of the 6 post-polio symptoms emerging and of any changes in their body's usual ability to function. Those who answer yes are at risk for developing post-polio symptoms, and so they should be educated about this possibility. The person's doctor should be informed about this response for the person. But what if someone doesn't know they were exposed to polio? They will answer no when asked, did you or anyone in your family or any of your childhood friends have polio, or were you school-aged when a polio epidemic occurred in your area? But clinicians need to consider how reliable that no answer is. We cannot expect Australians to self-assess their polio exposure, just like how we cannot expect them to self-diagnose a concussion when playing sport. Some people will say no because they are sure they were fully vaccinated as a child and/or they were living in areas where polio had been eradicated. As you can see, however, a clinician would have to get that detail and reasoning about the no response. Why do you say no? Is a good place to start. This is likely a true negative response. The person most probably has no real risk of developing post-polio conditions. Some other people will say no because they don't know or are unsure. Others may prefer to hide the experience out of fear because of traumatic experiences, or they may think that what happened in the polio epidemics is irrelevant because it was so long ago. They may not be able to describe their polio vaccination history and cannot deny living in an area having epidemics. So this is a false negative response, meaning we cannot be sure that this is a true no. In this case, we need to ask a few more questions. We ask where they lived during childhood and what years they were in those areas. With that information, we can take a look at Polio Australia's Google Map layer titled Polio Case Locations Australia and New Zealand. On this, we can see if their response happens to match the locality and year of a known polio case. The map includes only a fraction of all polio cases occurring in Australia. Other sources may need to be consulted for those whose childhood polio was in another country. We also asked the person about any other childhood health conditions they were told they had or believe they had. Any condition that seems to be out of place should be clarified further. Why? Some parents never told the child or their siblings about the polio infection, or the parents denied anyone had it, or the parents used another health condition to explain any residual mobility or polio symptom problems. Parents did these things to protect the child and the family. In that era, no one knew about future polio-related health changes and why it would be important to know that you were exposed to polio. Lastly, we should ask the person about their views on polio, the epidemics, and disability, and how those things were talked about during their childhood. This can help us to understand how the person and their family oriented themselves to the fears of polio infection during the epidemics era. If a clinician is concerned that the person they are screening was exposed to polio and may be at risk for developing post-polio symptoms, then the person being screened should be educated about this possibility. The person's doctor should also be informed of this concern by the clinician. If a person's responses suggest the no is a true negative, then the person probably has no real risk of developing post-polio conditions. As you can see, clinical understanding about polio, post-polio conditions, and the polio-exposed population is a key part of identifying those exposed to polio and at risk for developing these conditions. With awareness and understanding, clinicians can follow the screening process just described. We have outlined it for clinicians on a PDF titled Screening for Exposure to Polio, which can be found on our website. What can you do to ensure our health system can identify and serve those at risk of post-polio conditions? If you are a clinician, please become familiar with the Screening for Exposure to Polio flowchart and update your client history forms to better identify those in your client population who may be at risk for post-polio conditions. Clinicians can use the excellent Polio History form, which is found on the last page of Polio Services Victoria's Anaesthesia and Surgery Guide, to obtain the thorough history of their patient's polio journey. If you are someone who thinks they may have been exposed to polio, or a family member of that person, then you can ask the same questions. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. By understanding post-polio topics, you are helping to improve health outcomes. Visit Polio Australia's website for further information and to download resources.